Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for Tuesday, May 29th. Duane, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. World Cup is starting in 18 days. But Duane, you know what I like about the World Cup and what I like about soccer? I like the video game part. And FIFA 18 World Cup is available right now. It's downloaded. It's waiting for the show to end to be played. I can't wait. I'm going to win the World Cup with France. And Griezmann's going to be my golden boot. And that's going to be what my Tuesday is all about.
All right. Well, thank you for listening today. As always, you can follow Kevin at Kev Laramee. I'm at the 24th minute. This has been Soccer Today.
Exactly. Welcome to Soccer Today, by the way. To all our listeners, World Cup Today will be starting very soon. We're rebranding during the World Cup as World Cup Today. And you can follow us on social media at Soccer Today SPN and SportsPodcastingNetwork.com. Duane, a little bit of housekeeping to start the show today. There's going to be ads on the network. There's already some people having ads. You're going to maybe have the ads. And yes, it's life. We need to be rewarded for our time. And that's what ads does give us. The one thing we do want to offer you as well, if you do not like the ads and you want to have ads-free shows, well, there's now a possibility, Duane. And it's cheaper than Netflix. Yeah, you're not going to get any ads for $5 a month. Patreon.com/SportsPodcasting Network. And with the $5 a month, you get, of course, the Two Saw Dude Soccer Podcast as a bonus, but you get ads-free version of Soccer Today and World Cup Today that will be available with this Patreon.com/SportsPodcasting Network $5 tier. So at least we're getting ads. We're going to get rewarded for our time so we can make more research and better content for you all. But we do want to give you an opportunity to have ad-free shows.
Well, precisely, yeah. And look, if you're a Two Solitude subscriber now for $2 a month, we thank you for that. There will never be ads on that. That's part of that gig. So thank you for that. You don't need to upgrade to keep that ad-free. But if you want the rest of our programming ad-free, either another $3 a month or $5 a month if you're not yet subscribing, we'll do that for you. Otherwise, you can just listen to our nice ads. And all Soccer Today listeners, I'm sure you drive Lexuses. Is that how you say Lexus plural? Lexuses. You have to drive two at once. Yeah.
Yeah, one on each hand. It's like drinking. You got two hands and you need to use both. And that's the idea behind it too. Is with ads, and it's an ad agency that's representing us. We're not going to go deeper into that conversation, but just so you know, is actually gives us more leeway, more time to focus on what we do for you all, and not just look at ways at how we can find sponsors. We actually have them now, so this is taken care of. And the other free version of the shows will be the live ones on YouTube, youtube.com/SportsPodcasting Network. The only thing it costs you is to subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button, and I'll be really happy.
Yeah, and precisely. I mean, we have to scramble. We have to fight for this stuff. I would like to really take this to the next level. That would include, occasional travel too. So that's going to require us having that ad backing. I would love us to be in France next year for the Women's World Cup. That is kind of my long-term goal. I don't know if I've told you that one, Kevin. I'm sure that you'd be happy going to France for a while next summer.
Sure. Just I'm getting married just the day before the World Cup starts. So I'll be in Portugal, but maybe I can make a little trip, a little side trip to France to see Jonathan as well, who will be at the World Cup next year, Jonathan Tannenwald. Yeah, that's going to be fun. But speaking of the World Cup, Duane, let's start there for the show today. Morocco 2026. You remember a few weeks ago you talked about that? Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of voting, a lot of nations, a lot of associations giving their support to Morocco. But apparently, in the second inspection, Morocco has failed at 5 different cities. Apparently.
Apparently we'll stress this. This is an unsourced report in Morocco that's been circulating over the last day or so that the second inspection has in fact failed. Now, this could mean a couple different things. It could be true, obviously. This could be, and the reporter that's reporting this is not just some guy. It's a guy with an affiliation that's been covering this from the get-go. So his sourcing is pretty solid. There has always been suggestion that they might fail this inspection. In fact, the fact that there was a second inspection at all suggests that maybe they were in trouble to fail this. And what it has to do with the infrastructure around the stadiums, like the ability to get teams safely from their home base to the stadium safely and effectively and efficiently. So just basic infrastructure issues like roads and sewers and street lights and things like this. This is what we're talking about here. And outside of their main areas, of the main tourist areas that people are used to, so we're talking about the secondary stadiums, FIFA has concerns. Now, that's the possibility, is that they failed this. The other possibility is that this is being leaked to this journalist by someone within the Moroccan delegation without them knowing for sure whether they failed it, but with the expectation that it's possible to try and prepare people for this, to get the anger raged up earlier before the actual announcement comes up, to perhaps influence FIFA so that they don't want, an angry mob of Moroccans just before the World Cup. And they're literally making this announcement, the day before the World Cup starts is when we find out for sure who's hosting this World Cup. So that's something that they'd like to avoid. But look, I've been saying for a while that probably the way United Bid wins this is through this very means.
Yay! My two favorite word in sports: default.
Fair enough. Like default is my favorite word in sports. No, but the other way to look at that is that the way that it's not so much on default, the fact that they're presenting a technically superior bid, which no one argues with. The reason people want to go to Morocco have nothing to do with the actual ability to put this World Cup on. It is clear that the United Bid is the superior bid in every way. It's just Europeans like the idea of just topping on I'm trying to think of the budget. Ryanair, getting on their Ryanair flight for $100 and flying to Casablanca, right? That's what they want.
They can take the ferry. We've seen millions of migrants over the last few years taking the exact same trip to Europe in boats. Maybe that's what I want to do. I don't know. There's a proximity aspect for European teams, for sure, for European fans. And if your example, just use one clear-cut example. You're Iceland, okay? You got 30,000 fans of your team that are going to travel. Like 20 of them is going to travel to see your club. If it's in Morocco, they might go. If it's in Vancouver, well, it won't be Vancouver because Vancouver said no. But example, if Iceland is located in Edmonton, maybe they won't make that trip,
Yeah, well, I think they might try. And there's also the internal travel within. That is the weakness of the United Bid. Not necessarily. I don't think it's a big issue that it's in North America because, for God's sakes, it's the World Cup. You got to move it around from different regions. It's not the European Cup. They have their own. That's in 2020. We'll have one of those, and they can, think about that all they want. But having it in North America isn't the issue. I think the issue really is that, I'm in Mexico City, I'm in Azteca. The possibility of a team being based in Azteca and then having to fly to Edmonton or Edmonton and having to fly to Azteca, or Houston and having to fly to Boston or something like that is a very real one. And that's something that, if you're a fan, I do get that. But at the same time, as we've said many, many times before, both on this show and in particular on Five Rings, I don't think you should be considering that in today's day and age. These events are TV events for the most part, or internet streaming events or whatever. They're broadcast events to make sure that we're not getting caught up in the technological shifts of the day. They're broadcast events, and they're seen and absorbed by 99% of people in that capacity, in that way. So working a tournament around the needs of 1% of the richest people, the most well-off people in the world, I don't know. That to me should not be the main concern. And particularly when you're talking about this Moroccan bid, and one of the issues that I've always had, I'm a little uncomfortable bashing their ambition to host it, because I think that's good. And I do think there is value, soft value, in having these events in places, as I've said many times on Five Rings. But I look at the scale of this World Cup, and I think any country in the world is going to struggle to host 48 teams. They really are. The United States wanted help to do it. Now, part of that was political, but
even pragmatically, if you look at it, the 10 games in Mexico and the 10 games in Canada, potentially, will give it just a little stress relief, right? It just makes things a little easier than the 80 games, right? It makes for maybe a group here, a group there. So instead of 48 teams, you have like 40 or 34 based in the States. So it's like a bit more manageable maybe. And
they're scaling it to what it would have been before the increase, right? Like that's essentially what's happened here is that Canada and Mexico are going to take the overflow. And I think this is going to have to be the future of this event. If they want it to be 48 teams, they're going to have it in either two at least, if not multiple countries. And as I've said many times before, I think the answer is to have it in 8 countries. And they don't even have to necessarily be close to each other, because I don't think you need to be considering travel for fans at all. That, to me, should be the last thing, because you're going to sell the damn stadiums out regardless of where they are by the local people there. Spread the damn thing around that way. Yes, there are going to be, our friend John, who listens to this show, he will go to every World Cup. But, John, sorry, we can't scale these things around you, and you'll probably find the way anyway. And enjoy yourself in Russia.
Yeah, and if he's going through China, too. So give me myself a little Guangzhou FC shirt for the studio, John. Thank you, John. And I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we got a gift from a listener, Dale was his name. So we thank Dale for this. Dale gave us a signed Orlando City jersey, signed by the starting 11 from the most recent game here in Toronto. Oh, wow. So we're going to figure out a way that we're going to auction this off, maybe to our Patreons, maybe to people that donate in some way. And so if you're interested in this nice little jersey, and it is a beautiful little piece of MLS merchandise here, have a listen. Keep a watch, because we'll announce how we're going to do that soon.
Yeah, and I have a Pirlo signed Italian national team ball too, that I've been looking for a new owner. And I know it's not going to get a lot of traction right now, but I do have a soccer ball signed by half of the Montreal Impact players too, like Nacho Piatti, Samuel Piat. Who knows? This ball might be worth a lot of money this summer when Piatti gets sold.
There you go. So we'll figure out how to do that. Some different initiatives that we have to get back to our original start. But I don't know, Kevin. Let's go back to the World Cup bid here, though, to end the block. Look, the announcement is supposed to happen by the 30th. The 30th, so that's tomorrow, is when we're supposed to know what is happening with this thing, whether they have passed this inspection or not. So soccer today, tomorrow could be very different. We could be celebrating. Get that celebration time. Come on, bumper out there, Kevin. Sorry, I had to sing there, but get that ready to go, because Canada might qualify for the World Cup tomorrow.
We're going in as hosts. We're going in as hosts.
Maybe.
Yes, they're going to believe us, and now they're going to believe us, and now they're going to believe us. We actually play soccer.
All right. Yes. If United Bid wins this, and I am going to get on that phone and be in that press conference, because I want to make sure. I will not believe that Canada is in as host, even as hosts, until I hear someone from FIFA say Canada is in as host.
Speaking of tonight, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, there's going to be a press conference at a brewery in Cincinnati announcing the joining of FC Cincinnati, but rebranded as Foosball Club Cincinnati into Major League Soccer for 2019. Cincinnati will be in, and we'll talk about this, of course, tomorrow. The announcement will be tonight, but that's what's the announcement. The announcement is announcing FC Cincinnati to Major League Soccer. Congratulations to Jack Stern, goalkeeper coach of FC Cincinnati, former goalkeeper coach of the Montreal Impact, back in MLS next year. I'm happy to see you in Montreal again, Jack. But Duane, Foosball Club Cincinnati in MLS starting next year.
Embarrassing name, but at any rate, I will never refer to them as such. They will just be Cincinnati. You'll note that I rarely call RSL its full name, or Kansas City by its name either. So
that's fair enough. Fair enough. And they have gone a long way. If you remember 2015 when Cincinnati was first announced, 2014, and that god-awful video of 4 fans clapping, FCC, FCC. Yeah, it has gone a long way.
Yeah, Andrew Wiedemann, the famous TFC legend, Andrew Wiedemann, is one of their original players. It's been a long way since Andrew Wiedemann's era, both in Toronto and in Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a very short break. When we come back, we'll talk about VAR. Yes, VAR is still popular.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
Anywhere you get your podcast, you can get Sports Podcasting Network and World Cup Today. World Cup Today live daily during the 2018 Russia FIFA World Cup. Duane, Rollins, and myself will be there 10 minutes after the first game of the day to talk about the two games of the day before, the rumors, the injuries, the news, the fun, the beautiful game. That's what we're going to be talking about. And to continue to talk about the beautiful game, Duane, for today, a not so beautiful part of our lives now. VAR has become, well, a weekly topic of discussion like you had predicted. It was fine last year. In the 6 months that it was effective last year, it was kind of quiet. But in 2018, so far, VAR has been responsible for a lot of controversy.
Fire it into the sun. Okay, that is my succinct review of VAR. And look, part of my underpinning of my position is based on the fact that I don't care if the referees get things perfect. I mean, yes, it's frustrating. Yes, you want them to do as good as they can, but I just don't care if they miss a pedantic call. I don't at all. I don't think it changes the game. I don't think it makes the game better if you catch every pedantic thing. But here's the thing about VAR: it's not. It's underlying human error even more, and it's making for bizarre decisions that no one saw. It does not help the game in any way. I reject the notion it's a that we need to improve it. I think we need to eliminate it. But putting that aside, because I appreciate this isn't likely to happen, at least before a CBA negotiation, because, and we'll get to this in a second, because maybe the players don't want it. But other than that, you've got to reduce the amount of times you're using it, and you've got to clarify how they're using it. There's been several controversies this week. I mean, we talked about Jonathan Tannenwald early on in this show. In his role as the head of the North American Soccer Reporters Association, he's trying to work with the league to change how reporters are allowed to report on VAR decisions, because right now there's no communication between what happens. Well, there's the communication between the referee and the VAR. Reporters aren't allowed to ask, and you assume that also means that the officials and league officials aren't allowed to ask. So everyone's in the dark about this damn thing, and no one knows what is being said, what they're looking at, when they're looking at it. It just makes for a lot of frustration, and it really boiled over this week with a few bizarre decisions.
Even the last few weeks, if you, like, in my mind, this thing has, when you have a new rule or a new gimmick, gadget, widget that you bring into something, you have an idea in your mind of what is going to be used for, but there's always instances of other usage of it that takes advantage, and then it becomes that instead of what you thought it was going to be.
No, yeah.
VAR is not there to give red cards to people who put their face in their hands in other people's faces. And it has become almost that. We've seen this 3-4 times this year. Red cards for that exact reason, for behind the play stuff. The Zlatan slap on Petrasso, and there's other instances like that. The Philadelphia player on Daniel Levis in season 2, and that's just 2 examples with the Montreal Impact, and there's other example, and it's basically VAR has become what's happening behind the play that we don't see, that don't has an influence on the game, but we're still gonna call it instead of actually calling the goal that went in or the save or the up. Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, it's the slap rule. It's like they might just call it slap AR at this point, right? Because that's what it's mostly getting used for right now, is to find, as you say, behind the play stuff. And we're not talking about grotesquely violent behind the play stuff. We're talking about little ticky-tacky, like handbag stuff.
Like you roundhouse kick someone behind the play, yeah, fine, you're gonna get a red card. You get angry, a little spout of fury, and little like slap behind the back. Yeah, you should get a red card if the referee sees it. Is it worth to stop the game for 5 minutes? And that's where is the truth really that important, or the perception of truth really that more important? And there's something to say about, well, maybe we'll dial it down. Instead of 4 things, maybe we just review goals and penalties. Maybe, I don't know.
That's you know what I don't think offside should be reviewed either because I think it's the angles in that are make it too difficult to get it
and you
perfect.
never know. And the height of the camera changes something. The sidelines of the camera. On one side, you're in Minnesota in the Golden Gopher Stadium, and you have no sidelines whatsoever. It looks like a hockey game you're watching. And then you're watching another game. It's different. Yeah, I agree. I think it should be like mistaken identity, fine, but this is like not even important enough to be on there. Like the VAR and the booth, okay, fine. If the ref gives the yellow card or the red card to the wrong guy, okay, tell him. But the whole process of VAR for slaps or like, fine, the guy gets a slide tackle in the box and there's a red card. Double check to make sure it wasn't a dive, and yeah, I agree. A goal, make sure he crosses the line. I agree. Make sure there's not impeding on the goalie when he's trying to save the ball, fine. But outside of those little instances, I think there's more trouble for what it's worth. And I was not thinking that before, and last year I was all for it. I guess seeing it in action has changed my opinion.
Well, everyone came back around. Precisely. That has always been my compromise with this. I don't want it at all, but I'm okay if it is just used for, you review each penalty. A referee calls a penalty in the field. The VAR official is in the stands, looks at it quickly. There's going to be a delay anyway. Well, they set up the penalty, and the referee gets swarmed by the team he called it on, because that's just part of the course.
So, I thought that was illegal, by the way. Swarm with the referees. I thought they tried to put this illegal a few years ago, but oh well.
Yeah, so that happens. You review it quick. Okay, yeah. And if it's clearly a dive, then you call down and you give a card to the diver at that point, right? That's fine, and that's going to discourage people from diving in the box too if you start automatically carding them. I'm even okay if you automatically red carding them if they dive in the box, as long as it's understandable, although a yellow card is what the law says, so we can stick with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with obviously reviewing goals. It's cheaper probably than doing what the Premier League does with the goal line technology, which I prefer. But whatever, if you want to make sure across the line, that's okay. And mistaken identity, as you say, has there been a single use of it for that? Even
we don't
as
know
of now,
we can't know. We ask and we don't have answers, so we don't know.
Yeah, so it's whatever. I mean, but in terms of the in the flow of the play stuff. No, and if you want to get into the violent conduct stuff, if you miss it, you miss it. Because you know what? They always in the past had him, and MLS did this more than other leagues. And I was frustrated by it sometimes, but I'm okay with the after the fact reviews. So if you have it after the fact, violent conduct you missed, you give them the red card after, for the next game. They get suspended, they get fined. There's a punishment laid out if someone does something, over the top. But would Zlatan have gotten an after-the-fact red card for that? Probably not.
Well,
seen as something that happened.
He would have got a fine at least, and people would have said, "Yeah, he doesn't seem like a nice human being," which we already thought that. So yeah, but no, maybe you're right, and that's what disco is there for. I'm not talking about the music here. I'm not talking about Duane's favorite music choice. I'm talking about here disciplinary committee. No, I know. By the way. Very happy for you, Duane, that ABBA has reunited. This has nothing to do with disco, and I'm talking about the MLS disciplinary committee. It's a bit of their job, right? To what the referees miss behind the play. It's their job a bit to go back and give the right either a red card or to give the right punishment, fine, whatever. But I don't want to put it on the referee of the day to make sure that he checks what every 22 players doing at every single time and make sure that I think some decisions could be left after the case. We're just talking here and it won't change anything, but what might
change though is, Kevin, sorry to interject, but what might change is because the players are complaining now, and this could be something that comes up in the next CBA negotiations, which no one wants to talk about CBA negotiations because they're terrifying, but when it happens, this might be something that changes, but I don't think anything happens before that.
MLS going to say, okay, fine. Well, we'll take VAR out, but no more free agency.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, we saw it in the CFL. I never thought, this is rare that we're going to reference the CFL positively on this show, but the CFL last year was having, they don't call it VAR, but a video review issue. The games were constantly being delayed for stupid little calls to the challenges. They had a coach challenge situation. And they were constantly being challenged. So the new commissioner came in, recognized that the fans were getting sick of the delays, sick of sitting there. Their game times were improving. They were pedantically reviewing stuff and said, you know what? one review a game, period. And that's the solution they came from. And I don't watch the CFL religiously, but I watch it here and there. There's nothing else on a Friday night, I'll throw it on. And the games were much better, and they were much more watchable than an NFL game after they got it down to one simple review. And if a league that wants to be, a league should be always open to change. And this is, I guess, where I'll give them some credit. They were open to trying this out. They tried it out. They're clearly seeing some issues. They need to now act on the complaints that are out there, because you're not just a bunch of curmudgeons out there going, I don't like change. There's legitimate concerns that people had going in are being borne out. The games are being delayed. Fans are confused. Players are getting frustrated, and pedantic junk is just, red cards really change games, and they don't change them for the good. And for having some of those red cards that are coming out now, you cannot tell me this is for the best interest of the game. You just can't.
And the thing is, too, it's the worldwide aspect of it. It's the 4 leagues that were testing VAR. It's the Serie A, Bundesliga, MLS, and Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Those 4 leagues were testing it. Like, it's been the same thing all across the 4. Like, Bundesliga's been really hated, and the Serie A is the same thing. And we're seeing it here. So for it to change, it's going to take more than just MLS itself. I don't even think MLS itself has anything to do with what's going on there. It's like a project by FIFA, and Howard Webb with pro referees are implementing it here now. Oh, Webb, by the way, we I don't know if we mentioned it a few months ago, but he is now the head of pro referees. Peter Walton now works under Howard Webb, so that's interesting. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money invested. It's maybe wasted, I don't know. But it's a lot of money put in this project of VAR across the league, across the world, and across the different entities that are using VAR right now as a testing ground. And I don't know, could the result of the test be, okay, let's forget about this whole thing after 2018 and just drop it? I don't know. The amount of money invested in this whole thing is kind of telling me that it's here to stay, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, sure, fine, but scale it down, adjust it. This is a trial. Use it as a trial. It doesn't have to be set in stone. Is this helping that we're calling these off the ball stuff? No, I don't think it is. I don't think anyone agrees. I don't think anyone's satisfied by it. I guess maybe if you're a fan of the team that benefits from it, you're going to be satisfied that week, but give it 3 weeks and you're going to be dissatisfied by a call. So it's going to even out over the course of the year. Get it down to its basics. Review the penalties. Review, I don't know, if you want to extend it to reviewing a call on the field. I don't want it to overturn calls. I want it to back up calls. I guess is how I can summarize this succinctly. It should be used to confirm, not to overrule. And I'd be happier if that was the situation. I won't be happy until it's fired into the sun, but that's unlikely, Kevin.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. Let's take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Montreal Impact and give a quick medals of Week 13.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
And we're back. Before we jump into our medals of Week 13, Duane, there's like a lot of things going on in Montreal. There's like the Anglo journalists versus the French fans. Tony Marinaro is blocking everyone on Twitter. And a lot of people are, well, Tony Marinaro, TSN 690, a famous talking head here in Montreal, has been saying very, very loudly that he thinks Rémi Garde should be fired. And he's put some stats out there for the reasoning why and things like that. It's the worst coach we've seen, blah, blah, blah. So my question to you, Duane, is this. Should Rémi Garde be fired? Is his job in jeopardy? Yes or no? And is it really his fault? Did he really choose the players? Did he really have to, like, deal with the contracts that they have? So, what are you thinking, Duane? From an outside perspective, you've seen a bit of what's going on hashtag IMFC media right now, IMFC. Don't go there, by the way. If you're having a nice day, don't write hashtag IMFC. But Rémi Garde, is his job in jeopardy? Yay or nay?
Well, I don't know. It shouldn't be. I'll answer that directly. If you made this commitment to him, the biggest mistake you can make right now if you're the Montreal Impact is to bail from this. You have to give full control to a guy and give him time to put his project in mind. I mean, if you give him even less time than TFC gave Aaron Vinter, you truly are TFC 2012, 2013, and your results are going to follow that. I'll say that bluntly. The worst thing you can do in Major League Soccer, worse than even sticking with bad players, is to constantly flip players and to constantly flip management. If you do not have a direction, you will be directionless. You will spin and you will get worse and worse and worse. And I think that's going to be even more underlined in 2018 than it was in 2012, than it was in 2007, than it was in 2004, because the league is getting better. And if you don't have a direction, you're screwed. And the Impact would be just stupid to fire him at this particular point. Now, the question, you can then ask whether it was the right call or whether they were blinded by a name. I don't know. I think we debated at the time. You were pretty happy with the hire, and there were things that you liked about it. I thought it was a decent hire, but put some reservations up about his ability to understand what type of player would be needed in this league, and how to work with salary caps and things like that. It's the same kind of concerns you always talk about when you bring in a manager from overseas. But I mean, we're seeing a couple high profile examples of managers that have coached at higher levels that have come in and done just perfectly fine in Major League Soccer. So there was no reason to doubt that it wasn't possible. You said it. I mean, he was inherited a team that didn't make the playoffs last year. It was a year off the Eastern Conference Final, yes, but that team.
Let's go back to 2016. It's like the same team, but 2 years younger, with like a momentum, with a certain way they were playing. It was I don't want to say it was a perfect storm, but the Impact at that point and the Impact just a year after, even though there was a similar team. Similar player, I mean, they were not a similar team just because of tactics, because of different way they were playing. Of just like when you're on a run, you're on a run. Like just as the Golden Knights, everything's working for them. Sorry about that last night. Like everything's going well. Like everything just goes well. It's just normal. It's when it starts to hit the fan, you're like, okay, let's duck for cover.
Yeah, and look, let's be objective about the Impact's run to the Eastern Conference Final either. It wasn't that they were at the top of the league all year. They got hot at the right time, and they were good. They were, 30 minutes from the MLS Cup final. They could have won the championship for sure.
Away goal rule twice in the playoffs to win. Right?
Yeah, so it was a fine line.
You win still. It's still great, but it was a fine line. And Montreal was not dominating. They were not the best team in those playoffs. They were efficient. They were clinical. They were finishing. They were scoring. And now it's 382 minutes without a goal for the Montreal Impact. A club record. Woohoo! Record's a record, right?
Yeah, fair enough. The one concern I would have if I was an Impact fan would be, obviously the Piatti situation, but that's easily solved and might actually be for the benefit if they get the money from it. They have to invest it correctly. And that's ultimately where this decision is going to have to come down to, is if they truly do think that they've made the wrong hire, and that this is the wrong person, then they need to act now, because the worst thing you can do is let this simmer and then let him be in charge of spending the money that they will get for selling Piatti, or making the decision to keep him around as a lame duck. Either of those decisions is going to be franchise changing, right? Yeah. So you need to have the right person in place for that. And if you truly do think, I will not support the guys that are yelling for his head. And let's be clear, the gentleman, Tony, who I've been on his show, by the way, but way back when, he's a general sports guy, and it's his job to.
He loves soccer. He knows soccer, and maybe the sport that he plays and learned and has plays the most. But he's there to get listeners too, right? And he's there to make sure that people react on Twitter. And guess what? They did.
Yeah, that's part of his job, and he's also we'll also talk about the Habs next week, right? So this is just his topic of the week, so that's fine. And there's not a lot more to talk about in Montreal right now. And when living right now in a city that in the past and even right now has had a lot of frustrating sports years, when it's kind of like a pile-on thing. When things get negative, you start looking for more and more negativity, right? And it starts to just feed itself.
And Montreal in sports is terrible right now. Like, city of losers. Thank you.
So there you go.
Thank you, Pete
Rose.
Right.
The Alouettes might, they're pretty bad too, aren't they?
City of losers. Speaking of losers, let's finish the show with our medal quickly of Week 13, Duane. Boule de Bois.
The bronze, I'm going to give it to Chichera, obviously with a hat trick in Vancouver. I would give him higher, and I didn't actually see whether he won Player of the Week. I suspect he did because he got a hat trick. But
it's not out yet. It'll be out later tonight. But Jesse Gonzalez did get my vote.
I went Gonzalez number 1 as well. So spoiler alert, there's my gold. So we can just talk about the silver in the middle. But
there you go.
We're going to go with Chichera. Obviously, you get a hat trick. That's a significant result. The unfortunate part, though, is that he doesn't defend. And as we talked about in yesterday's show, the Whitecaps are either all the way up or all the way down. You know, like when you ever like driven with someone in a car and they put the window all the way down and it starts blowing stuff around. And you're like, oh my God, can you put the window up a little bit? And they go all the way up and then you're steaming and you're going, can you just pick halfway? And they're not able to do that. That's the Whitecaps right now.
Yeah, it's like the soup, right? There's too hot and there's too cold and they're just the right one. Exactly. We're looking for our Goldilocks here.
Well, precisely, yes. Goldilocks, good. We're referencing all kinds of things today.
Yeah, it's a reference galore. All
right. Silver. Well, we talked about the gold. Let's talk about Gonzalez. So we'll go back to silver in a minute. We talked about this as well, and I've talked about him a lot in the last few days. It was one of the best goaltending performances I've seen in a long time. 23 shots, 13 shots in the box, 9 of them were on target.
That's crazy.
These are point-blank chances. He made probably 4 saves that all could be save of the week. Absolutely Player of the Week stuff for me, and he got at least 2 first-place votes. We know this, so we'll see. But normally a lot of voters, unfortunately, only just sort of look at the stats and go,
like
3 goals.
People like goals, eh? Like, oh yeah, this guy's got 2. All right, I'm voting him in.
Yeah, and look, I'm guilty of that some weeks too when I don't have a chance to watch as many. But nonetheless, the question with that, I wish we could have like a debate or something, but we're all busy people, so alas, it'll just go to Teixeira. So congratulations, Whitecaps got a Player of the Week.
Congratulations, Christian Teixeira. Probably. All right, let's talk about the silver.
I was going to collectively give it to the Houston Dynamo because I wanted to talk about them a little bit, and I want to talk about them because they got a good result against New York City FC. New York City FC got the early lead, then the Dynamo managed to protect that home turf, and obviously they have a nice little home advantage there, although no one seems to be showing up anymore. That's unfortunate. Forever Orange like the seats that you get to see.
Yeah, they're in Dallas. I don't know what's going on in Texas. Maybe everyone's moving to Austin, and every soccer fan in Texas is moving to Austin in anticipation of the move of the Columbus Crew. I don't see any other explanation why Houston and Dallas have like 5 people watching games.
Well, in many ways, Houston's worse when it comes to the attendance because Dallas, at least you can point to the fact that the stadium is in, practically Mexico. So there's that. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's a long way from downtown.
Just a bit.
So, yeah, I don't know what's happening in Houston because they did have pretty decent support for a long time, too. It sort of slipped off. And part of that was because they don't play a particularly exciting style, and they aren't particularly very good. So, all that combined, it has taken them a long ways away from the Duane DeRosario winning championship era when they first moved and, were the Colorado Avalanche of the
baby Quakes,
MLS.
The zombie Quakes, yeah. You know what I like about Houston, though?
What's that?
Their technical director, their GM. Oh, yeah. He used to work here. He used to be the assistant GM here, Matt Jordan. Yeah, maybe. Hey, Matt, we could use you right now. Anyways, that's another topic for another day.
Exactly. And look, the impact, I'm sure that we are going to be talking a lot more about the impact in the days ahead. If they make the firing,
I hope they don't. I truly hope they don't, because at some point you have to trust someone. No? At some point you have to give the keys to the castle to someone. And Rémi Gar's as good as anyone,
Trust the process.
Yeah, but you have to trust the process. And you know what? You can't be relegated. How about you try something? You always took rash decisions and went with what you thought was best since 2012. And look where it got us. We're actually going backwards now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time you just trust someone, give them the keys to the place, and say, look, I'm not bothering you for another 6 months. I'm not saying I won't fire you, but I'm saying, look, we're actually giving you maybe a chance. And carte blanche. And trust me, Rémi Gar will understand what carte blanche means.
I think even we understand what carte blanche means. Anyway, yes. Look, part of the problem, I think, if we're back to the impact, we'll finish with this.
Yeah, sorry.
Part of the problem is that the impact have never really had true struggles. even back in the A-League days, they were A-League USL days. They were a strong team. They were amongst the best teams. I guess the year before they went into Major League Soccer, but you had Major League Soccer ahead of it, right?
And nobody cared. Exactly. It's like anyone. Minnesota, before joining the league, had a terrible season. Same for Montreal. Same for Orlando. Just because, as much as we like to say, yeah, well, we're not overthinking. We're not thinking about next year. Of course you are. Like, come on. It's like when you're playing against a terrible person in the playoff, or you're a boxer and you're fighting number 28 and you're the champion. Yeah, you're looking past him. And yeah, it could be dangerous, but it's human nature. You're going to look past him, and that's what happened. You look past it, and you get burned.
I mean, I was listening to an interview on what's the radio station number out there, the TSN one. Anyway, the TSN radio in Montreal.
690 in Montreal.
690, yes, thank you, with Patrick Leduc. And he said it was the worst team he's seen since 2001. I think he was on that team, so there you go.
Yeah, I think might be a little bit of a entertainment factor here, because, 2007, Montreal was pretty terrible. But, yeah, like, we remember Tony Donatelli, not MLS caliber, but yes.
Exactly. So it's been a while since they've had to go through this. And look, you can turn things around quickly in Major League Soccer, but you have to have that vision to do so. And do the Impact have it, or are they just going to start? Even the Torres stuff when it came out struck me as more distractionary. It struck me as maybe they knew they didn't have a chance, but they just wanted to get stories out there that were positive or something like that. There's a bit of.
You know what it was for me? It was like the management wanted him, and Ribigard didn't. So for me, it's that type of thing, right? Management's like, "Oh, Torres, I'll pay the $1.5 million. They'll fill the stadium." Yeah, but I won't make him play. I think that there's something there. I don't know.
Well,
is everyone pushing in the right direction, in the same direction? That's what I'm wondering. And when you look at the different people talking, sometimes the words don't necessarily match up. And the philosophies as well. We'll see what gives. Something's got to give. And one philosophy has to win. One way of managing this team from top to bottom, from signing the players to how you use them, should be coherent and should be aligned. That all those ducks should be in a row. Is it now? I don't think so. And I think if the ducks are in a row now, they might be in danger of being all shut down. So you kind of have to be careful. But I still feel that a clear-cut club philosophy directive needs to be taken now and trusted and followed, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll end it, I promise this time, because we're coming out at 45. We'll end it with this, and I'll ask you a question. You asked me when to start this, before our weird segment where we start with the Impact, went to something else, and then came back to them. Anyway, I guess the Impact are making an impact on us today. You asked me whether I'd fire Miguel. I would not. I'm going to ask you whether you'd fire Adam Braz.
It's not that I would fire Adam Braz, because, well, I know the Impact and I know how it works, and I've been following this club for 10 years and following closely, covering it for 4. The thing is, it's not about firing Adam Braz or firing Nick DeSantis. Joey Saputo wants them in his team. He likes them. He likes how they think, and he trusts them. As a business owner, when you trust someone, you want them close to your businesses because you trust their value. It doesn't matter what other people think. So that being said, I don't think you need to fire anyone. Can you surround them better, though? Can you get an assistant that has experience? Can you get someone that will give you the eyes that we all think is needed, the scouting eyes, and a better way to negotiate deals and not necessarily being always taken advantage of by player agents? Like Aregi, come on, are you kidding me? Exactly, those moments we want to get rid of. And you don't need to fire anyone to make that happen. Just surround them better. I'm not calling for anyone's head because I don't really care. It's not about the person, it's about the work. And if you're going to hire someone to help them do the work, then do it. It's not about firing anyone. It's not about, we need to change it. Who cares? It's not about the people who signs the contract. It's about the people who negotiate them and know behind the scenes what happens. Get one of those people. Get a Julien Brisebois, from the hockey side. That the exact same example. Get a capologist. Get someone that's only good as maybe scouting or maybe making sure that you don't get taken advantage by a player agent who's selling you a player way more than he's actually worth. Yeah, I think that's needed. A firing, maybe not. Surrounding them better, I would go yes.
They need a geek. They need their Bezbachenko, which, Bez is essentially a geek, right? Like he's a analytics cap guy, knows the league, all that sort of stuff. The Impact maybe might lack some knowledge there and understanding the league mechanisms, even to this day, having that insider. And they've always struck me a little bit as being on the outside when it comes to that. And I don't necessarily know whether you can succeed in this league without having that inside trading kind of aspect. So maybe they need to go down to league office and hire an American, bring them up.
You know what I would do? It's not even that. It's about Nick DeSantis has played a long time. He's a legend of the Montreal Impact Club. Adam Braz as well. And a lot of other players, people surrounding them have the same type of experience. When you've been playing for a long time and following one league for a long time, the way you analyze player and you scout, you have almost a tendency, and you think that you see that you like and think that you see that you don't like. Sometimes things that you see that you don't like are actually really good for your league, but you never really went there. I think there's something about that. Is not saying that Montreal's scouting badly, but truly finding what they need and using and trying to find those in other players that they don't have. I don't think there's a correlation here. And I think there's a bit of misevaluating what they have, what they don't, and what they need. And I think all this is maybe sometimes biased because of own experiences of people in those jobs, of like, we all have like our little pet peeves too, and sometimes the player will have a pet peeve and be like, yeah, that really nags me and I'm not going to hire him just because of that. Well, he could be a really good player for you. Yeah. So there's all that aspect. And for me, this all changes. When there's a dichotomy, that there's an atmosphere, there's a feeling, there's something going on. You add another person to the mix and it changes everything, right? It maybe reshuffles the deck and just hire someone to give him a hand. That's what I would do. Just hire a geek. Yeah. Go get Montreal's equivalent of Tim Bezbachenko.
All right.
Before GM.
There you go. Get the Bezbachenko from Montreal. All right. On that note, Kevin, I've gotta go get some Diet Pepsi because I'm having the shakes here now. I haven't had one all morning, and I'm gonna let you, as always, say goodbye.
And if people are watching the studio version, it's about time I restart my AC because my glasses are fogging because it's about 35 degrees in the studio right now. So I need to start my AC. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and Duane at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. with another edition of Soccer Today World Cup Today live during the 2018 Russia FIFA World Cup. And you can find the on-demand version of this show at sportspodcastingnetwork.com and anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want ad-free versions of the show, go to patreon.com/sportspodcastingnetwork. $5 a month gives you ad-free versions of Soccer Today, World Cup Today, and all the shows we do. And as always, until tomorrow, have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.